Hi and welcome. I'm Lisa Rangel with Chameleon Resumes, the premier executive resume writing company, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today we're going to talk about top interview tips so you can land the offer. And what I want to approach with you today are some uncommonly heard tips that will help you improve your interview performance so you can focus on landing the offer. So let's jump right in. The first tip that I want to give you is, and I actually did a video on this a few weeks ago if you wanted to go back on my channel here or on my posts, is always assume there's an internal candidate that is eligible for hire that you're competing against. And by doing this, you need to now focus on how to up your game in such a way that the employer will still think you are the right person to hire despite all of the knowledge of the company that internal hire is going to come with. So that's the barrier that you need to now break through in terms of proving yourself to be the person to hire over the internal candidate. Now, obviously, that internal candidate has some assets, some advantages by having company knowledge that you're going to have to then get up to speed on. But if you have the achievements, the recent relevant achievements that supersede what they bring to the table in knowing the company, that might be something that the company is willing to overlook and bring you on board instead of the internal candidate. So always assuming there's an internal candidate will help you up your game in approaching an interview. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is to approach the interview as if this is a meeting of equals, doing a business deal. And conversely, don't approach it in this subliminal, superior to subordinate manner where you feel like you have to jump through hoops, you have to be performative, and you have to gain approval. It's a subtle difference when you approach the interview from a business meeting of equals versus this subordinate to superior type of mindset. But it's when you make this shift to a meeting of equals, it's awesome. It elevates your value, which leads to a better offer when you're the chosen candidate. And you come across as someone who is assessing situations and offering themselves as the solution to either capitalize on an opportunity that's lying before the organization or as someone who can fix a problem that the organization is experiencing. So you come across as as more of a solution than simply someone to fill a position. So, and this can be done really at any level, although I mainly work with senior level leaders and executives. Those senior level leaders and executives refer us their professional level, friends and partners and their adult children. And we use these tactics when preparing them for interviews as well, and it works. So this is something that works at every level. And it's a way to elevate your presence, elevate your value in a nonverbal way by simply just having the assumption that this is a business meeting of equals, as opposed to this, again, superior to subordinate type of interview where you are then feeling like you need to jump through hoops and have the right answers and be very performative. When it's a meeting of equals, it's just a whole different vibe. So that's tip number two. Tip number three is to approach the interview with recent relevant achievement stories that are going to, again, be relevant to the employer. So you want to go into the interview having these stories ready to talk about and being able to use in various scenarios. So, typically I suggest a CAR format. There's many other different formulas that you can use. I tend to use the CAR format because I think it's easier to remember. It's less complicated maybe than some other formats, but challenge, action, and result. So talk about a challenge that existed in the workplace that you were facing. What is the action you took to remedy that situation? And what was the result as a result of your action? And choose the stories that will be able to be relevant and important and interesting to the employer. Don't just pick the CAR stories that make you feel good. Pick the car stories that make you feel good, that you want to continue doing that action in the job, and they're relevant to the employer. If you're not picking stories that embrace those three elements, you may be losing the employer, right? And you may be putting yourself talking about stories that for activities you don't want to keep doing. And then that, so you really need all three of those elements in this third point. You need to make sure that the stories are what you want to continue doing, the stories are relevant to the employer, and that they're recent. So this way, they're relevant to the employer. I think I've said that a few times. So anyway, with that being said, if you apply these 3 tips to your next interview, you're going to get some traction. You're going to come across as a different candidate without saying I'm a different candidate. That's the key. You can't just say you're different. You have to then embody the difference. And these three tips will allow you to, through your presence and your story sharing and what you do and how you approach the interview, these 3 tips alone will help you come across as different, as opposed to just saying you're different, which has much more impact when you actually show that you're different. So if you'd like more tips to help you with your next interview, I'm going to suggest that you grab my interview preparation bundle that I have in the description and links below. And this way you can go through that material, go through those videos and ebooks that I have in my bundle, and prepare yourself in this different way. And there's a lot more tips like this that will help you come across different than other candidates that you're competing against, which is really what it's all about. So again, Lisa Rangel, Chameleon Resumes. If you like this video, I'm going to ask you to like it. If you know someone who's going on an interview and will benefit from these tips to appear different on the interview, I'm going to ask you to share it with them. Feel free to subscribe to my channel so you do not miss next week's video. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me at lr@chameleonresumes.com or put a comment below. I do my best to read and reply to every email and every comment because I want to make sure that you're getting the help you need. So thank you so much for watching and have a great day.